All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephanie Brown. I am the host of the In Between Artists podcast. And today I am joined with Dr. Arshley Emile, filmmaker, cinematographer, DP, all the amazing, great things. And yeah, we're going to get into a nice little Q&A. So Arshley is episode number 3. If you've not listened to it yet, you can listen to the full podcast wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And tonight, yeah, we're going to get caught up because it's been over a year actually
Yeah.
since we recorded our original episode. And since relaunching the podcast and
hmm
fully sharing these episodes in the way that I originally intended, I'm
hmm
actually really great so much time has went by because it really allows for these conversations to be super rich and meaningful and really getting into these Q&As. So I've not had a super long conversation with you since that
Yeah.
podcast. And I also just found out that Arshley has purposefully not listened to his own episode
No.
because someone has a problem with the way that they sound.
Yes.
Personally, the audio is fine.
No.
But we are fully live. So let me just say that do not incriminate yourself. Do not get yourself in trouble with any non-disclosure agreements that you have
Oh,
signed.
I got
But I
you.
am really excited to hear what's new in your world.
Yeah. What's new in my world? Did I have a dog last time we spoke?
You
I
did.
don't.
You
Okay.
did.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah, my dog
definitely.
was enjoying you, I think, even more so because a new dog was in your life and you weren't.
Yeah.
I think you had some feelings about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this, but no, Coco is the best dog. It's therapeutic. She's always there. She loves you no matter what. So
They
that's new.
grow on you.
Right, definitely. I think right now we're working on a few projects, a couple of documentaries, one in South Carolina, which I can't talk about or give the title, but it's a very moving piece, and I just found out like literally 10 minutes before I got over here. One of our talents passed away before we could interview them.
Oh
And it's like,
no.
oh my gosh. So this is like the second time it's happened to me in
Oof.
front of documentary. So the last one was in November. We interviewed him in 2 weeks prior or after he passes.
Wow.
And so there's a bit of grief that you go through as a filmmaker, right?
Because the
You
project
know,
has to go on. So like how do you like kind of
right,
pause or make a moment for that?
right. And that's the thing too. And I'm just texting away in this one for this film in South Carolina. I'm just a DP, and the director and I are pretty cool. And I'm letting her know, my condolences. And it's just like weird. Like, okay, what's the next steps? It's so,
Yeah.
that's a yeah. Other than that, I'm working on my first feature, which we briefly talked about last year. It's dealing with Eric Garner. There's no title yet. I can't give you a title, but I can freely say we're working on it. We're in post production right now. In fact, we just got word. I don't know if you recall the guy who actually filmed Eric's death, Ramsey. He's willing to talk with us, and so that's yeah. I
Great.
know that's the only interview I was missing, and so we're going to get that situated this summer, and then film will be done.
Wow. I'm so proud of you. And that's another kind of blessing in disguise around the
Yeah,
amount of time that went on between us originally recording that
right.
episode. So the Eric Gardner documentary was brand spanking new. Arsley could not
Yeah.
talk about it, but he was super excited. Um, but on top of your excitement,
hmm
I think, and what's beautiful is we can have this conversation without necessarily talking about the documentary.
hmm
Everyone knows who Eric Gardner is, right? And
hmm
a documentary of that type is necessary and
Right.
important and
hmm
heavy. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about just emotionally what that film took you through? Because you're technically on the other side of it. You're in post
Right.
production, right? Even if you're going
hmm
to film one more bit, but
hmm
you're on the other side.
hmm
So, yeah, can you just tell us about making an emotional film like that, a heavy film like that? as a director, as a, cinematographer, like, yeah, how did you navigate that? What did that take you through?
I'll tell anybody if you have the means and you're a director and you're also a cinematographer, try to just focus on one. And I
Mm,
did both. And it's because, the funding at first, I was just trying to help the production and save money and make the producers happy, which we did. Um, but it was a heavy load, right? Not necessarily the work, but just what I had to capture and at the same time direct folks. And I never liked or I like the idea that you stage, your documentary. And some people do that. I mean, HBO right now is
mm.
asking people to, not volunteer, but to come and act in a documentary, and they're willing to pay you $2,500. Ridiculous.
That's
It's
like when I found out like all those like wedding shows were
right.
just actors.
Yes, that's. I'll tell you
Wow.
this. I'm smiling now, but I had to go to therapy. It was a lot on my plate. When Eric died, he was 43. I'm 43. You know
Oof.
what I mean?
Black
He
man,
had
black man.
kids. I have kids. His experiences were very similar to my experiences. And I'll tell you this film is about Eric, but it's even bigger than that. We get to hear stories from other people in New York that
Mm,
went through or go through the same things that he went through and what I went through. And so capturing all that, seeing um, firsthand cops beating up on black and brown folks in New York with
wow.
my crew, and couple that with some of the stories that you heard, it would drive any sane man crazy, right? And so I had to take breaks in between. We've been working on this going on almost 3 years. I
Wow.
had to take a lot of mental health breaks. I don't want to do another trauma type film for a while. If it happens, if that's what God wants me to do, I'll do it. But I really don't want to because, you know, again, like we talked about before, right? Somebody passes away. How do I go to the family? Okay, we gotta keep shooting because of
Yeah.
budget, because of this, that. And the producers, they have a job to do, and I can't blame them. They want certain things. They're focused on the bottom line. Thank God I have producers who are willing to work with the family and understand the family's plight. But I tell you, it's not easy. If you really truly care about what you're doing, it's not easy. And one thing I did learn too, a director said it, and I forget his name. Somebody probably will look it up, but he said if you go into any film, especially documentary work, and it comes out the same way you saw it, you envision it, then you weren't listening.
Ooh.
I'm telling you, I listened because there's nothing what I envisioned totally is different from what we're seeing. It's even better. Thank God
Mhm.
for allowing me not to hold on to it and just let it be
Yeah.
and allowing them to speak the way they want to speak. Because everybody has an agenda. I have an agenda, they have an agenda, because I have my questions, right? And once I ask you those questions, you might answer it differently based on your agenda.
Yeah.
But the point is, everybody, for me, I felt like everybody was on the same agenda, strangers and all. Like, and then, I know, I'm like, he said that. They don't know each other. She said, it was just beautiful experience, but there's a lot of trauma that went along with it that maybe one day we'll later talk about it once it's all said and done. But I tell you, if you ever doing that kind of film, anybody out there or any kind of work like that, just be mindful of your role too, right? Just don't take on more than you can, and go to therapy. It's okay.
I love that. I love that. Yes, let's underscore Jesus and therapy.
Yes, yes.
Both things
Oh, whew,
combined.
yes. Hey,
Uh,
shout out to my wife. She was fasting and praying for me, for real, for real.
I love that for you, and I really appreciate you sharing that sentiment because I think that's really important. Not only as the person who identifies as a black man, but
Yeah.
also as a creative, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I think about what that might mean for like actors and actresses who take on
Hmm.
um, also like super hard characters. And I know there's this term
Right.
like shaking off a character, like everybody
Yeah.
has a time period after a film where they're like
Hmm.
shaking off a character because you really kind of like become them.
Hmm.
Um, but in the same way, I wonder what's that like for you? So I thank you for
Mhm.
sharing that. Now, you are self-taught,
Yeah.
and that's a big deal.
Yes.
And for my podcast, it was really important to me. I've got lots of art school buddies, but it
Hmm.
was really important to me to also connect and interview with creatives who are killing it,
Hmm.
um, who took a different path, because that's okay.
Yeah.
And since you are also an educator, I just want to break it down for others who are curious about being a filmmaker, because we might throw around a lot of terminology. But can you just outline what is the difference between a DP and a cinematographer?
They're the same.
What?
Director of photography is just the same as cinematographer. It's just a
So what's
fancy way of
why?
saying it.
Just so it's just like tomato tomato.
Pretty much. It's just another
Okay.
term.
So, and then if we throw in filmmaker, is that
Uh-huh.
just kind of like a catch-all?
That's yeah, I would say a catch-all because you could be a producer, right? You could be um
So when you say that you were doing two roles instead of focusing on one, what were
mhm,
those two roles?
directing and DOP or DP or cinematography.
Okay, okay. So directing and
And
cinematography.
it's not it's not unusual to have that during
Okay.
documentary, especially with us. Our crew was like five, right? At the highest, sometimes just be the three of us, sometimes just two.
Okay.
So I've met a lot of directors who shot their own films. Now on a bigger scale, you would want to be right, just the director or just the cinematographer because the director's in charge of everybody, right? He's responsible to manage the whole set, whereas the cinematographer is responsible for the picture, right? So I
Oh,
have to talk
okay.
to the lighting person and direct them and tell them what I need based on what the director's talking about. But since I'm
Okay.
the visionary, I need to know the lights. I need to be more of an expert in regards to lights than the
I
gaffer.
see. So you
You
were
know what I mean?
managing the set and
Right.
communicating with the people on the set, on top
Right.
of staying on top of what is the vision, and
Hmm.
communicating with the other people who are designing and or executing on that picture.
Yeah,
I see.
and not to mention being an executive producer. So, and there's times where I had to produce because our producer fell ill, and so I'm in New York and I'm producing, and Giancarlo, who's my gaffer, my right hand man, he saw the burden on me and said, "You know what? I got you." He started producing. In
Nice.
fact, he got us some dope interviews last minute just producing. And so it's it. I tell you, documentary is not for the faint of heart. You're gonna most likely wear some or wear a hat that you don't want to wear in order to get the job done.
Now, how do we differentiate between directing and producing?
I think directing is that's the that's the vision guy. That's the vision gal. That's the person who sees it all, who sees this world that you're trying to paint, right? And as producing is, I'm gonna make sure that I get whatever he or she needs to make this actually happen.
I see.
Now, but at the same time, as a producer, I have an autonomy too, right? I add to the creativity, whether I'm helping with the questions, whether I suggest ideas, because you might say, hey, we should put this like, we should interview this person. I'm like, well, if you want to interview this person, we should interview that person as well to kind of have a good contract. So that your producer to me is like your Robins, right? And not to
Mm,
belittle them at all, but you need people to help tell that story that you're trying to tell and paint that picture you're trying to paint. Because a lot of times I feel like there's some filmmakers, some directors who I met, they're egotistical and they just feel like they want to do it on their own. Especially there's some people I've met in the land I work with had no clue, what the film business was about. And once I explained to them, they understood you can't do this by yourself. You need a team, right?
yeah.
And your producers, trust me, you need your producers, and you want your crew to be cool. You want to take care of them so they can give you the visual that you are looking for.
This is helpful. So now when I'm thinking about like episodic shows on
Right.
Netflix, at the credits, I might see
Hmm.
directed, and it's like a different person for every episode.
Right.
I see, I see. But like, the crew and that kind of thing might stay the same, but it might be a
Hmm.
different director for that particular episode, or a different writer for that particular episode.
And don't forget, credits is how we get paid. So it's
Mm,
very important if you're going to
tell me
give me a
about
title
that.
and you put my name needs to be spelled right, right? and I had to have the right title under whatever job I did, because when other, let's say, other productions are looking for a crew, they could just look at the names. And
Those are
then,
your receipts.
right, those are your receipts. And so it's important that you have that done right. But yeah, so there's a million people. Like, I no, I'm just exaggerating, but whenever you see credits, there's a lot of people in there, and you
Yeah,
might think, oh, they did something. Oh, they just hair and makeup. No, they probably helped save the production. You just don't know. Like, everybody's important.
I love that. Everybody's important. That needs to be on a shirt.
Yeah, everybody's important.
Love that.
No,
Sweet.
seriously.
Okay. So, I want to talk about your personal, like,
Hmm.
creative goals, because I do feel like you're in a particular industry
Hmm.
that, thinking about how I want to describe this, it's not a matter of getting caught up because bills need to
Right.
be paid. And
Hmm.
for anyone who listened to our full podcast episode, you share in quite good detail, I would argue, about how you think about each gig, right? And what you
Hmm.
say yes to. You have values, you have boundaries, you have things that are important to you, and at the same time, you have a crew that you want to be able to give work to, and how you find the balance between that, I think is super responsible. And I hope that people take a lot away from that. I think my question to you was thinking about how do you balance between looking or seeking
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
receiving outside projects that you align with versus your own creator own type of content.
Hmm. I don't balance it very well. I'm not gonna lie to you. I
Okay.
could tell you a lie and say, yes, this is what I do now. A lot of times I'm doing work for other people, and I think the frustration comes out at times, creatively, when I'm trying to, make their vision happen, but make it better than what they're, telling me. And
Sure.
so when I'm not meeting, I guess, their expectations, or they're not meeting my expectations, I should say, I get frustrated, and my team sees it, and they're like, "Yo, this is not your project." Will, my brother, he'll tell you, he'll tell me, he's my big brother, mentor, best friend. He said, "Brother, create your own, and you wouldn't have these frustrations." And
Mm,
it's hard when you have
need an
three
outlet.
kids, right? It's hard when you have three kids and a mortgage.
Yeah,
You understand?
I
And
feel
so the
that.
pressure of that, of any man, but particularly a black man, right? Like, I'm the only black man in my neighborhood.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I'm trying to make sure my grass is cut, not because, oh, I love I don't want you to stereotype me.
Yeah,
I don't want, you know what I mean? So I'm
it's not
thinking
gonna,
about those,
it
right?
can be the
Those
neighbor, but it's not gonna be me.
exactly. So that's the thing I'm thinking about. But you and I have talked about a project for a couple of years now. I've been wanting to work on, and you'll help
Yes, I'm waiting.
produce it for me, and it's gonna happen. Eric Gardner has to get done first, but I learned with Eric Gardner, I'm like, I could balance some things. It's just I gotta be realistic, and I gotta get the right team. So far, it's just me and you, obviously Giancarlo, but I want to bring some other people in to kind of really help us get to where we got to go. But to say I know how to balance it, nah, I don't. It's the hustle in me, right? It's
Which is
the
dying.
father in me, right?
Learned that in the episode. The hustle is
Right. I'm trying, but
dying.
we'll get there someday.
No, I appreciate your honesty in that. And I think even just knowing that you're trying and how you're thinking about trying, I think
Hmm.
is important. You are thinking about projects that you want to do for yourself. You're having the conversation,
Yeah.
you don't have a start date for me, but you wanted to at least plant that seed and get that
Hmm.
conversation going. And I do think something that any creative can take away, whether they're a filmmaker or not, is like, what can you do every day
Hmm.
that moves in that direction?
That's true.
So I think
Yeah.
I'll leave that with you as you
Hmm.
continue to figure out what that balance looks like for you while you're on
Hmm.
hold for other things, while
Right.
you also mentioned working while you wait. um, you know
Yes.
these are other
Yes.
ways that you can work while you
Right.
wait, and keeping that alive so that when the time arrives, when the
Hmm.
funding arrives and that opportunity arises for you to work on that creator owned project, it's ready to go. you
Yeah.
know you got the team, you know who you're calling up, all of those things.
Hmm.
because you are an educator, I've really enjoyed getting to better understand the film industry through you.
Hmm.
That's not an industry that I ever imagined myself touching. Um, I have Rihanna Brown, I have Cameron Harris,
Hmm.
and Hamu Paku to thank for even introducing me to a film and roles that I could play in terms of like behind the scenes in film. And I'm excited to learn more about that and just kind of like be expansive within my
Hmm.
practice. But I think that's the beauty of what people can learn from you too, in terms of just being self taught. Do you feel at this point, because it's
Hmm.
almost been 10 years, it hasn't been 10 years yet though.
Yeah,
You're close.
almost.
You're
Very
close.
close.
Almost 10 years. Um, do you still feel like you have something to prove because you're
Oh yeah.
self-taught?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
Talk to me
um,
about
I think imposter syndrome is real. There's times where Eric Garner, I just felt like, what the hell am I doing? Especially the people I'm interviewing, right? I'm like in this room with this person that anybody would dream to interview, and I'm just like, I'm really here. And I won't tell you who. I won't embarrass them, but it was a particular celebrity who we were late, right? No, no, he was late. I'll say that he was late, and we're at his headquarters. We're setting everything up, and I'm super nervous. I'm like, man, I arrived, but I don't know if my questions are like good enough. I had over 200 questions. Okay, so I over prepared. Like I was ready. This is months in planning,
next
right?
question, please. Flipping through
Right.
pages.
And but I narrowed down to like 30 or 40 questions. I'm like, because
Okay,
I want to be here for a while. It'll be an hour. He's an expert. He'll be able to,
fly through.
knock him down. So the crazy thing is, he came in and it was just straight business attitude and all. I'm just like, damn, okay. I try to shake his hand and when he shake my hand, I'm like, damn, okay, this is insane. So now I'm really starting to question, like, do I belong here? You know
Mm.
what I mean? I'm a nobody. He knows that, and so he treated me just as much. And so we start the interview, and he said we have 18 minutes. I'm like, 18 minutes?
Oh, you're
So
expecting an hour?
now I'm looking at the 30, 40 questions. Like, okay, we got to bring it down to 5 or 10. Which ones are important, right? And so I just say, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to go ahead and fire away. And I just start just firing away and just asking these questions. And he was just hitting every question I asked. He had a good answer. It wasn't bad. And I purposely said to my producer, I said, Pam, how much time we had? And she said, oh, we have 10 minutes. He said, nah, give him 40 more 40 more minutes. He
Hey,
gave me an additional 40 minutes.
you
And
earned additional 40
right.
minutes.
And the thing is, I feel like God did that strategically. Because
Yeah,
when he said that, I already felt confident because I'm like, I'm gonna just ask these 10 questions. They're good regardless. But when he said that and he gave me that answer, it just solidified. Not say he validated me. It was
yeah,
more so God was like, no, you're good. You belong here. And he
yeah.
knew that I was so good he gave me 2 interviews. Just
Wow.
saying. And not showing off nothing like that or flexing. It's just like there's times where we're gonna feel like we don't belong here because we didn't go to the schools, we didn't go to the necessary clubs, or we're not part of some kind of fraternity or sorority. All that crap don't matter. All that's just titles. We made that stuff up, right?
Yeah,
What's ordained for you is for you. If God anointed you to do something, you're gonna do it regardless of what that person says or feels about you. And that's what I had to learn. And that's what actually carried me over the past 3 years to get this film because there's times where I wanted to quit, but I felt like I wasn't good enough. I had to remember that moment. I'm like, nah, I belong here. I worked my tail off. If whether I went to YouTube University or I read it online or some article, it doesn't matter. As long as you put the work in, you belong there.
yeah. Oof. That's resonating for me personally in a lot of different ways. I think something that is so important that I really want creatives to hone in on that you mentioned is
Okay.
the titles.
Hmm.
We put the weight on those things.
Hmm.
You know, yes, statistically and societally in
Yeah.
America, having a college degree has particular benefits. I get it.
Right.
I
Right.
understand. However, We have to think about how we want to live our lives. What
Hmm.
careers and things do we see ourselves moving into? How do we imagine navigating that career and then
Right.
making that decision? I have
Hmm.
a very different conversation with people now when it comes to entering higher education
Hmm.
compared to like when I first went in for myself. I had one
Hmm.
perspective, like, of course, yes, that's what you do. And then now, the way I conversate with people is like, well, tell me more about what you want to do. Like,
Right. Right.
are you confident in what you want to do? Because if you're not,
It's a
I
waste of
think
time.
younger generations are just getting more cautious
Hmm.
about jumping into bed with such a big loan or,
Right.
such ginormous debt, when
Hmm.
honestly, looking back at it, we were very passive about it, you know?
Hmm.
And this isn't even all that long ago. I mean, I'm a
No.
92
No.
baby, right?
Hmm.
So, and even as a 92 baby, it was nothing to be like, oh, yeah, here's this Parent Plus loan, here's a $50,000 here, $60,000 here. It's like, okay, cool. I signed this. Okay, my parents signed this. Cool.
Hmm.
Like, you don't understand the weight of what you're signing at
Hmm.
18. And then 4 years later, you're saddled with this debt and not a
Hmm.
clear path or way of paying that off. Like,
Hmm.
it's wild. And for some people it works, and for some people, they find their way through. I'm very grateful for those who invested in my education through scholarships and grants. Like, if that's the path that you want to take, like,
Right.
I'm 1,000% here for it. I would say, and not even a but, and I think what's I really want people to take away from you and your story is that at the end of the day, you get to validate yourself.
Hmm.
Nobody else can give that to you. But all of those moments, I feel like those are moments where like God just like co-signs
Hmm.
on what like they already know,
Right.
but you're
Right.
still learning to have that confidence in yourself. You were selected for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't even look at me going into grad school as a waste of time. Right. Would I have done it differently? Yes. However, it was ordained because that DR has gotten me in places that I
Yeah.
really had no business going,
Yeah.
being in, because people are so obsessed with titles. Um, or I've gotten the respect because of that title. Again, the Eric Garner, because that's the most recent thing. For the past 3 years, I've interviewed people, and because of my name, I was treated differently. I probably wasn't famous and didn't have the accolades as
Right.
these individuals, but they
But it's almost
respected
like
me
a
nonetheless.
perking up. It might be like
Right,
you've done something. And
right.
this is where, you gotta, the same way the system manipulates us,
Come on, come on.
we need to know how to do that the other way around too. What I won't do is
Hmm.
ever, shame or guilt anybody, degree or no degree,
Right.
because you got your degree. You got
Hmm.
one, two, three,
Hmm.
technically. You went all the way to get your
Hmm.
doctorate in something. And that means something, and it does give you um, a presence.
Hmm.
It just underscores and showcases that you cared enough about a topic to
Right.
deep dive enough into said topic to
There we
then
go.
earn your PhD in it. And
Hmm.
there's not everyone has done that or is willing to do that.
Hmm.
And that does open doors. It does move things. Someone might take a second look at your email because they saw that in a signature. And the
Yep.
same thing is for whatever schools you went to. I said this actually, we had this conversation in my first podcast episode. We made mention about, it was kind of jokingly, but seriously, about
Hmm.
utilizing the colleges that you went to, because those colleges are using you
Yep.
to recruit new talent, and they're looking forward to what you do next to recruit new talent. So use that college. When you decide to go to a school that no one's ever heard of, you know,
Hmm.
that has an effect
It
versus
does.
when you go to a college that lots of people know
Hmm.
and they could have never stepped foot on the campus. Like, I'll use Howard University as an example.
Right. Right.
Never been, know very little about it, but I know if someone was just like, oh, I went to Howard University, I'd be like, okay, I see you.
Hmm. Right. No, it's
Because of
facts.
the respect that type of institution has. And
Right.
it does go a long way. And I do
Hmm.
feel like it's our jobs to help break down the gates, right? In these
Hmm.
spaces that are often being gate kept. Um, so let's have you talk a little bit about that because
Yeah.
you went from, so you got your PhD in English
Hmm.
literature, is that correct?
No, no. Education leadership.
Oh, education leadership. Okay. So
Yeah.
was it your bachelor's?
My
Where
back
did,
my bachelor's was English lit, and then my master's and my doctorate are the same at leadership.
okay.
Um, from what was the question? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm just asking like how that
Hmm.
background fueled your creative practice into filmmaking.
I think for me, like we talk about validation and just knowing, and for me, there was never an arrival moment, right? I was born a
Mhm.
creative. My mom was an artist, right? But she allowed it to die. And I won't even say die because even if you see her house, she has little art pieces
It manifested in
everywhere.
other ways.
Yeah, so you can't really kill it. It's gonna be there,
Yeah, it's going to
but
come
she
out.
she suppressed it a lot. But for me, it was always there in my classroom and my papers I wrote. It was always creative. My professors would get mad at me, especially my doctoral program. Like, this is not creative writing class. This is a doctoral class. Blah blah blah. I'm like, okay.
Academic writing, sir.
There it goes.
Yeah.
And I would still find a way to add that creativeness to it. And even during my defense, oh my God, I made creative. They loved it. They end up loving it. Like, oh, this is not boring. It was
Yeah.
always in me. And I think, in the classroom, like I said in our podcast interview a year ago, my students told me, why aren't you doing following your dreams? Right? You tell us to do that, but you're not doing that.
And you're supposed
I
to be
would.
some leader.
Right. In the classroom, if you saw it, if a student told me they've never been to the beach, I'll design the whole classroom and make it to the beach. And I'll do that constantly. I'll even, create a whole curriculum based off that. Right?
Mm,
I'll talk about how black people weren't allowed to go on the beach. I'll go that deep and kids love it. And so for me it was always there. So my godmother told me, like I said in the podcast, when she told me, I love the fact that you're going for this degree. I know you're smart. I've always told you that, but I've also told you you're an artist. What happened to that? And so I knew I wanted to tell stories because I love movies. I love photography. But I had to make a conscious decision and say, you know what? I'm going to take a risk. I got two kids. I got a beautiful wife. I love my house. But I'm going to move and go to Atlanta and follow my dreams. And my wife was like, I'm down. That's all I needed.
I
If she
love it.
said no, I probably wouldn't do it. I'd probably be too afraid. Right. But I think it's about you recognizing that and making that conscious decision because you're going to always know what you are. Right. Sometimes we gotta go back to the manufacturer and say, "Hey, I need a reset because life programmed me to think a certain way, to believe a certain thing." Because, like you said, like we were passive about going through these, signing up for colleges and these loans because our family said it. Go to college, get a good
Yeah.
job. And
Yeah.
that's a lie.
They didn't even, and
They didn't even
we're
know.
both children of immigrants. So like
Right.
they had no
No
frame of
clue.
reference for
Hmm.
what all they knew is that if my child has a
Hmm.
degree, they're going to be okay. Because at the end
Right.
of the day, the child of any immigrant parent just cares about their child being financially secure, being able to take
Right.
care of themselves. However, that still came at a deficit because
Hmm.
our immigrant parents had no idea what these loans were. They had no idea what
Hmm.
the interest might be. They had no idea what the payback might be or
Hmm.
how the fees that are due might be reflective of the money that we were making. They had
Hmm.
no frame of reference for any of those
None.
things.
None. And that's what I had to understand. I had to tell my mom that. And she felt like Martin Luther King, right? You sent me into this burning
She had
house.
a dream.
We had a dream, and then she realized, oh, that dream is a burning house. Okay. But she told me she was proud of me for going after my dream and doing the art thing because that's something that she wanted to do. I know until I meet Tyler Perry, she won't really be too ecstatic, right? She's always asking me, "Have you worked with him yet?" I'm like, "No, mom, not my kind of work would not go along with Dia and them. Just now, Tyler Perry doing his thing, and I'm doing mine."
I
But
mean, maybe we need a Tyler Perry documentary. or
He
another
already
one.
had he already has one.
Another
I'm
one.
not gonna lie, I know that one is actually pretty good. But no, I want to just encourage people to look deep within yourself.
Yeah.
Go to the manufacturer and let God remind you who you are if you've forgotten or if you've been programmed. Because we get all this noise. People tell you, "Oh, you can do this, you can do that." I'm not saying you should only do one thing. That's another thing. I want to bring this man up, but I have to because he said it. That's why I learned it. Kanye West, a long time ago, said, "If you think I'm supposed to," and I'm just paraphrasing now, if you think I'm supposed to live 90 years of my life doing one thing, then you're sadly mistaken. You have multiple purposes, not just one.
Yeah.
When he said that, I was like, oh, I'm tripping. Because again, our parents, one purpose, one job,
Yeah. You
family,
got
that's
that
it.
good job. Leave it alone. Don't touch
Maybe
it.
maybe a hobby, maybe.
Yeah.
But this is what you do. You save, 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 save. They never tell you to go on vacation. They never tell you to enjoy the money that you make, the fruits of your labor. No, just work and save, work and save. No, because that's not the white people doing.
So it's
And I
just not
think
how they grew up. It's not how our parents grew up. Again, there's no
no,
frame of reference for that. You know,
right,
all they can encourage is what they saw from their
right,
parents or their
right.
grandparents, and it's that scarcity mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our
Mm-hmm.
parents are
Mm-hmm.
coming from a generation with that. So it's like, yeah, if you got a good thing, you hold on to
Oh,
it.
yep.
But there were also lots of incentives in American society back then, like
Mm-hmm.
pensions and things of that nature, where you
True.
were bet you know you would benefit a lot from holding on to one job,
Mm-hmm.
and now that's not really the case. You'll
No.
learn in the second podcast episode. Katrina, she would, for a while, she was
Mm-hmm.
jumping ship from jobs every 3 years. She didn't
Mm-hmm.
stay at a company for more than 3 years. And
Mm.
while some people might think that's crazy, it allowed her to really upskill her cash value
Yep.
on the job market.
Yep.
She was able to advance and scale from company to company,
Yep.
with some changes along the way, but it is a tactic. That's just, our world is just so different now. So, like, we have to learn to continue to evolve with it along the
Mm-hmm.
way.
And I think it's important because CEOs do it. They jump. They do it all the time.
Yeah.
I don't. I think this generation of people. I won't just say kids or young people. Just people. They smarten up. They're
Oh, yeah.
pivoting. They're doing their thing. I think there's some people who shouldn't be entrepreneurs. I think there's people. I'm just being honest because
That's fair.
if you're
Not
lazy, you
everyone's
should
a
be.
business person. Like, at the end of the
No.
day, like, there's something for everybody. Just like we talk about
Okay.
followers and leaders,
Right.
one is not better than the other. It's an
Absolutely.
ecosystem. It's
Right.
necessary. Some people are born supporters,
Yep.
you know, other people are born visionaries.
Yep.
I would I really want more creative people to just discover their lane and
Hmm.
spend the time to figure it out.
Hmm.
I just think that we don't ask ourselves enough questions. And I do
Hmm.
think that's something that more people are doing now, is
Hmm.
asking questions about, like, what makes me happy? What do I want to
Right.
do? What am I great at? And if I can do anything, I want to encourage people to continue having those conversations with themselves, because I
Yeah.
promise you, you'll be in alignment with what you're meant to be doing. And it's going to feel
Hmm.
great.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I say that. I think the Damon Dash effect took over, right? Especially around 2020. Like, oh, you can be on boss. No, there's benefits to it. Don't get me wrong, but I don't wish it on anybody because um, at any moment you could be on call for
Yeah.
something. There's times where I'm having dinner and I get a call and my wife looks at me. She knows the look I give her, like, gotta go. It's a job, or
Yeah.
we probably have some schedule like we can't do that day. We got to move it, right? The only things I don't move, obviously, graduations. I don't have that much power, so I have to either miss it or send somebody else in my place. And sometimes that's difficult because the client want me, right?
Yeah.
Which is understandable, right? But I say, like you said before, just find whatever it is that you're supposed to do. Study that, focus on that, research, follow that path. Everything will open up the way. And if God says, "Hey, I still want you to be an entrepreneur," it will happen. But it's
Yeah.
okay to be a supporter. It's okay. Producers, that's what they are, supporters, right? but they make a lot of moves. They're very, very important.
Yeah.
I think they're a little underpaid for some of them, unless until you get hired. But I just think as long as you know your role, you know, you'll find happiness in there and not get caught up on what you see on IG. I think that's what it is. We're again brainwashed into thinking that we got to do this to be successful when reality is living out the very thing God called you to do. That's success, right? Not me being an NBA player or being CEO of some big company. That's not success to me. It may be for them, but for me, it's going home knowing that my wife and kids are taken care of and my dog. That's success for me.
I love that. I love that. I would agree. I would agree. I think my definition of success is definitely shift into that kind of direction for sure.
Hmm.
But it's important. It's
Yeah.
important. And I think it's scary, or it can be
Hmm.
scary, to discover your purpose, or even to
Uh,
try to discover your purpose, because there's a level of
hmm.
accountability.
Hmm.
But we can only go walk around, pretending to be ignorant for so long, when like
Hmm.
that small part inside of you is just yearning for something. You keep being
Hmm.
reminded time and time again from
Hmm.
strangers, family, friends, all these
Hmm.
different kind of things. Oh yeah, you should do that. You should do that. That thing. Everybody has that thing that
Right.
keeps coming up again and again. It's coming up for a reason.
Hmm.
And I do think that it can be scary to like lean into that,
Hmm.
because it's like now you own it. And now if you
Right.
don't do it, now it's on you. It's different. It's like, oh, I don't know what my purpose is. Like, you know,
Yes, you do. Yeah. Well, like I
you
said,
know.
we all know it's just we're like I think you said it right, the accountability part, but you also not just accountability, right? I think more so you being manipulated, or even not all the time. Some people manipulate you. Other times they're coercing you into something or pushing you into something they think that you should be doing. They might have the right
Yeah.
intention, but
And
and
it
I
can be a
could
fog. It can deter you, or you
right.
can buy into that narrative for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done that, right? There's time we should do this. Oh, you should be a speaker. Not that I can't do those things, or I will never do those things. It may be premature. Like, no, this is not what I'm doing. I got to
Yeah.
do this first before I can speak. I always say I'm not listening to a preacher who's never been through nothing. I don't care how talented this preacher is. You can be 10 years old. Oh, you're just mimicking. Live life first, then come preach to
Yeah.
me, right? Because then I can really believe you. So
It's
I
gonna hit
think
different.
right. So my films, I feel like will hit different because a lot of it comes from my own experience. You know what I mean? I don't take on projects that don't make sense to me, that I don't live by or I haven't experienced, because it's not gonna. I don't know. It's just not gonna look right, or it's not gonna feel right for me delivering it. Can I do it? Yes, but I know it wouldn't be as authentic as the Eric Garner piece. But I think it's important that we recognize it first. Who cares about the accountability? Who cares who we disappoint? This is your life.
Yeah.
Like I've always, my brother and I always been free, right? And I know that's kind of rare for somebody from the Caribbean, but when I go outside, I didn't really have to ask permission. She was always at work anyways.
It's because you're male.
Look, I didn't want to bring that up because it's a different
Yeah,
topic that I
because
don't want to
the
get into, but it's
women
true.
of
It,
Caribbean parents had a wild of a
yeah.
different experience. But
Definitely
continue.
wild. But having that freedom, because I remember my cousins, they would say the same thing you said. But you growing up, I just understood. Okay, I'm free. I don't have to do this. But I was still trying to please my mom, right? Because I didn't have my dad. I didn't want to disappoint her. But when
Yeah.
I got to college, I was like 18, 19, just free. I'm like, why am I still trying to find a major that pleases her? Not towards the
Mhm.
end until I realized, man, I can get creative writing. I've been writing poems all my life. I've been writing just different little scripts all my life, short stories, and my professors pushing me, and I'm like, man, let me just do it. And when it didn't happen, I thought, oh, see, my mom was right. I shouldn't have done it. No, I should have. I'm glad I did it. I'm doing it now. My
Yeah.
professor told me you don't have to have a degree in creative writing to be a creative writer. Just write, and
Yeah.
I'm living that right now. But once I told myself and I told my mom I'm not doing what she wants me to do, I'm doing what I feel like I'm doing for me, what's best for me. I felt this burden lift. There was no
Mm,
more burden. My mom didn't like it at first, but she understood it because she did the
yeah.
same. You know, if she would have listened to her mom, she would have been in Haiti, never tried to come to America the way she did,
Mm,
and provided a life for us. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't horrible, right? You know, we were poor, but we had what we needed. She would have been stuck in Haiti. I probably been dead in Haiti. I don't know. You know, I just believe in just living your life, not living it carelessly. Listen to your elders to some degree, right? Listen to your people, the people around you
it's a
to some
guiding
degree,
light.
right?
Yeah, it's like,
Everybody, you take a little bit from everybody,
yep. You take
but
what you
go,
need, you leave the
but
rest.
yeah, go back to God. What is God telling you? That's the only person I'm gonna listen to anyway. If He tells me, "Hey, I got to stop making films for a while," okay, what do you want me to do? You know what I mean? I'm going to follow him. I can't listen to it because everybody's going to have their own narrative on you, on your. Because I can look at you and say, Steph, you should do some kind of coaching. I can see you doing that, and you might think about it because it does align with your personality. We all can do that, but is that something you should do? I
Right.
don't. But we know
Right.
not right now, maybe.
Yeah.
So
The should
I
do
don't.
part. That's
Right
huge.
there, you
I love that.
go.
Thank you. Well, does
No
anyone
problem.
have any questions for Arshley? We've got a couple people listening or tuning in with us live. I'll give you a few moments. I think I maybe have one more question for you. Are you good on battery power?
I'm good.
Okay, great. Awesome. Let's see if we have any questions coming in. Well, I think my final question for you is I'd love to
Uh-huh.
know what are you working on while you wait?
While I wait, I'm still working on some client projects. Like I said, one in South Carolina. I have another one in Atlanta for Project South. If you don't know about them, they're a nonprofit organization down in Brownsville, which they call South Atlanta. It's a beautiful organization. They're about mutual aid. They're about community. They're about
Nice.
Black reconstruction. You know, they're about being the voice for the voiceless. You know me. That's just my lane. So we just wrapped 10-minute documentary pitch that they're going to show in LA to raise some funds to help rebuild their building, right? And mind you, this is the same building during the Atlanta massacre.
Oh.
Yes, that never burnt down. That and the Carver High School. They're
Oh,
all,
wow.
that's, yeah, so ridiculous. But they're going to try to raise money using this film. And then we're going to document, the plan is to document the different stores around the neighborhood through the
Okay.
years. And so have a series of that play on YouTube. And then, you know, you and I got something. I won't say the name because I don't want nobody to take it. It's near and dear to my heart. I'm just trying to debate whether I want it to be a narrative or a documentary or both.
Okay. It'll
So,
come to you.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I've got in the comments, someone said, no questions. I'm just proud to
Mhm.
watch his work. I've got some fans. I've been seeing also some of the claps and exclamation points coming from
Okay.
people. So I
Thank you.
appreciate you all for sharing. Arsley, you do amazing work.
Appreciate it.
I I would be preaching to the choir if like I couldn't reprimand you for questioning your value or, letting imposter syndrome sneak in
Hmm.
because the truth is those elements just don't go away,
Hmm.
especially as artists, especially as creatives. I think that we're just a little more sensitive to it
Hmm.
in a
Right.
general sense. But, Dr. Fahamu Puku, my good friend and mentor, told me,
Hmm.
when you're nervous, it's because you care.
Right.
And that's something that I've continued to take with me through my art practice and as I navigate changes and evolutions in my career. I think if you're scared, it's for a reason. Like you're onto
Right.
something. Like that's the good stuff is on the other side of that fear.
Amen.
It's on the other side of those nerves. So if you're creative and you're listening to this and that's how you're feeling, like lean into it. I hope that people are inspired by your story, Arsley. I hope that people choose to connect with you. Arsley is wide open. He's an open book.
Yeah,
Um, please feel free to reach out to him through Timberhouse Films or his
yeah,
Instagram. He's tagged on all of the episodes and also the clips that you'll find on social media scattered around YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram. His direct links are all there, and check out his work. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I'm so proud of you. I think you're
Appreciate it.
incredible. I really appreciate you joining me and being a part
Hmm.
of this. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
I can't wait to see what you're working on 3, 4 years from now. And
Yeah,
I guess we'll be seeing our names together in some credits
no,
soon.
for sure, for sure, for sure. And last thing too, before I forget, John Carl
Yeah,
and
go
I,
for it.
we're going around blessing people. I'm doing some free photography for some people out the blue. Like today, I called some people. I want to take some
Oh,
portrait. Like really?
sweet.
And we're also going around doing interviews for a series that we want to create just for YouTube, Instagram, whatever. It's called The Good People. And,
Oh,
I think there's a lot of people out there, and I'm talking about the average Joe, that just not about their art, just them, right?
yeah.
Get to know them. I think a lot of times we get caught up again with our work and our titles and whatever we idolize that we forget us, our person. So that's something that we're working on. So don't be surprised if I call somebody, if you're listening and I call you up and I want to interview you, please do it. We need to hear your story. Your story is important.
Yeah, your story matters for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Arsley. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, Arsley is featured in episode number 3 on the In Between Artists podcast. You can listen to that anywhere you love to enjoy your podcasts. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Peace.